Good morning, Zio here, and today we're going back to the wonderful world of Blizzard, Activision, Blizzard Entertainment, whatever you want to call them, ActiBliz, that people. Anyway, we're going to go back and talk about them because this is just, wow. Anyway, yeah, we're going to go ahead and rant about that. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so now. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back and relax, and let's get into it. So back in February, we talked about this. Activision Blizzard pretty much cut around 800 jobs, right? And that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss one of the people who were cut and how Blizzard has decided to take care of things. Anyway, so yeah, they cut a bunch of jobs, and then like just a few weeks later, what did they do? They posted positions for those jobs again, and it was quite scummy. Or for several of those jobs, community managers and stuff, after they had just cut a bunch of people and fired them, essentially. Make no mistake, they were fired. And then they came out and were like, oh yeah, hey, you want to work for Blizzard? We got postings, and relisted them a few weeks later or whatever. And people were rightfully pissed off, because that is just... I hate how corporations work sometimes. Anyway, but this is what we're here to talk about right now. Christina Mechanics? I'm bad with names. Y'all know this by now. I also can't read because I'm dyslexic, but hey, we're still doing it. But yeah, she was one of the people who were cut, and I can't remember if we actually had brought up her tweet or whatnot when they decided to repost these things, because her thing was just spot on for me at the time. But yeah, essentially this happened just recently, and by recently I mean apparently June 23rd, and I'm just now coming across it because it's been a really busy week last week. But I'm gonna say it because it's affecting my husband's mental health. Blizzard is currently blacklisting Savage Z from events because I spoke out against the company and offended a community manager, or CM, by responding to their tweet with, "Are you freaking serious right now? What a joke." And that is a tweet we do want to go down and take a look at real quick, because this is the one where she was responding to them reposting the jobs. But yeah, are you freaking serious right now? I'm going to give it to you straight. Jobs pay shit. Expectations and the amount of work are too high. The entire commercial department right now is a disaster. How can you post this in good faith, honestly? But yeah, that was in response to a community manager who was posting job listings for the same job she was just doing a few weeks ago and was canned for doing, essentially. So yeah, I would be rightfully ticked off too if I was let go, because, you know, their reasoning was the jobs were redundant, right? They weren't, they didn't need them anymore. They just, there was no need for them. And then for them to, a few weeks later, post listings for it, I'd be pretty ticked off. Her husband, on the other hand, is an esports player. And according to this, and from other things, he's been essentially blacklisted, and this thing has been going back and forth over, you know, a couple of days. It picked up steam, and eventually things have been made somewhat right in the world. But anyway, in a call with a CM who had me blocked on Twitter. The CM stated that Savage J, that I would not be welcome at any Hearthstone event and would not be able to accompany him in case Savage Z was invited to anything in the future. Pushing me in one thing. Punishing me is one thing. That they don't like me speaking out against what I believe is wrong. Punishing my husband just to punish me is grossly unprofessional, which is true. Definitely. Anyway, here are my own receipts. to say that this is deserving of blacklisting. Savage Day is blacklisting Savage Day is ridiculous. I was incredulous at best to the CM in question. I assure you that I have received far worse from my time as a CM, and I will continue to speak out against things I believe are wrong with the industry and is the only way things will improve. You don't have to agree with me. Fair enough. And I'm glad that she's speaking out, of course, with the industry, especially when it comes to Activision Blizzard, because we know they're not the same Blizzard they were during Wrath of the Lich King or BC. Ever since Activision came in, Blizzard has gone downhill corporate-wise, and it clearly shows. People know that it shows. I mean, between the way things have been mishandled, the jumping of the gun on a lot of things, the knee-jerk reactions with Blitzchung stuff and other things, and then not banning other people for doing the same thing, and it's been a giant mess over there as they try to appease their Chinese overlords. But anyway, Savage Z, of course, also made a statement. This is the reason that was given to me when I said I wanted to play at the event. My wife was part of the 800 layoffs, and she spoke up against the unjust practices of the company. I was told I am a liability because of who I am married to. And you know what? Let's see. When you think about it, on one hand, yes, he could be a liability. And just because he's still on the inside and she isn't, and if they've got things that they want to cover up, well, that would make him a liability. However, he has signed multiple DNAs. Gosh, I can't remember the word now. Anyway, non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. Anyway, and hasn't really said a whole lot up to this point or anything about a lot of this stuff. Which, of course, brings in the question that maybe he really isn't that much of a liability. Otherwise, he probably would have been ratting out on Blizzard this entire time at this point. He's had plenty of time to gather evidence and stuff, so... But anyway. Let's see. And then, of course, it blew up, right? It blew up over the day and whatnot. And the following day, this was dropped. I got an apology from the community lead. I am now okay to participate in future events, and my wife is okay to visit future live events as a guest. Which, being a guest, I don't see where the liability really comes in unless you unless you think she's going to come in and start screaming "Free Hong Kong" or something like that. Or Blizzard is whatever. If she's there as a guest and if she is behaved, of course, there's no liability there at all. There's no reason to keep her from the event. But yeah, that really is scummy. You were fired, then they decided to rehire for your position. You got pissed off about it, made your voice known, and then they're like, yeah, you can't show up to anything anymore. Oh, and your husband, on the other hand, he's not blacklisted, but he just can't show up either, or anything like that. That's incredibly horrible. Anyway, I had no idea that this would blow up the way it did. Thanks to everyone who sort of came to my aid. I didn't know how to say it better. They stated that I was refusing to sign a normal event NDA, and that was the reason I was not being considered for the event. This was not the case. No NDA was even brought up. And why are we getting that? Because this is the statement that Blizzard actually released on the whole thing to news sites. Savage Day was not excluded from yesterday's Battleground Brawl event due to his relationship or any type of blacklist. We didn't consider him for it due to a discussion we where he did not agree to a request for confidentiality. We reveal unreleased information at our events, so it's important to have agreements in place with all partners that prevent the sharing of that info with anyone who isn't approved to receive it, including friends and family. This is a team policy, not an individual decision. We strive to support and treat fairly all our partners, content creators, and streamers. Except for this guy, of course. This guy here, Savage Z, he gets the boot. Anyway, Christina's ban from live events was not a company thing in the first place, and the employee who said this did not have the authority or power to enforce it. Sounds like somebody got a little bit too big for their britches. We still feel like we were treated unfairly, but I really want to just move past this thing. I'm having a lot of fun with Battlegrounds, easily the best fast-paced multiplayer strategy game out there right now, in my opinion. And there is another invitation later that I play in. I want to keep making daily videos and streams to show I deserve a spot. And personal opinion, I'd be way more pissed off about this than he's coming across as. But at the same time, diplomatically speaking, this is probably the right move for him to go ahead and say, yeah, look, I understand it was one person who was ticked off because, you know, my wife essentially bitch slapped him across the entire Twitter sphere and, you know, beat him to a pulp, you know. Got it. That's fine, but there's no reason for us to be angry at each other. Just let me come back and we can stop talking about it, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's exactly what has happened. Blizzard, you really need to vet the people you hire a little bit more. This entire thing has been highly unprofessional. Should not have been a thing in the first place to blacklist a player because, you know, his wife or their husband or whoever it happens to be actually worked for Blizzard and was let go, and it was not a very good experience for them, especially when Blizzard does the things that Blizzard does. But anyway, let me know what you think about all this down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later. See ya! Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.